Board of the Zoning Appeals meeting to order. Could we stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Roll call, please.
Roger Brock.
Here.
William Hutton.
Here.
Dennis Radowski. Nancy Reagan.
Here.
Kathleen Hill.
Here.
Board present, we have a quorum.
Okay, we have the minutes for April 25th, 2023. Do we have a motion to accept them?
I make that motion, we accept April 25 and May 31st.
For both of them? All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes for April 25th, 2023, and May 31st, 2023. We have a roll call vote, please.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Nancy Reagan.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes?
4 ayes, 0 nays, motion passed.
Okay, the first item is under old business, Z-19-05, petition of Swanell Beverage, Inc. for conditional use permit extension regarding Title Section 11.31, parens D, lots abutting residential district to allow the continued operation of a beverage warehouse located in a I-1 Light Industrial District, located at 6044 Erie Avenue in the city of Hammond. Since this is an extension, did any notification have to be sent out?
No, there were no notification requirements.
Okay. All right, we ready for the petitioner to present his case?
Yes, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Chris Moore with Nice Engineering representing the project. Back in 2019.
Could you sign in too also?
I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Back in 2019, we had requested a conditional use and we were granted it, and then COVID hit and things got delayed. And then once the project was thinking about starting to move again, everything was still slow with the economy and stuff like that. Well, now things are starting to move and they're really starting to get moving forward on this project, but we're still not quite ready to go forward with it yet. But we are getting everything moving and getting the design finished up, and we just wanted to request an additional extension. We plan on sticking shovels in the ground yet this year.
All right. Any questions from the board?
I do. Mr. Poland, have you seen the updated or the most recent documents or drawings for this project?
I have received one version or a couple of versions, and I think that is part of it. They are still tweaking the site plan, and that, we have made it very clear that they have to stick to what the approvals were from 2019, the issue here is just because the conditional use expired basically a couple of months ago from the first extension. This is to extend it for the 2 years to keep the project active. And there's some nuances that may be, have to be addressed when it comes to an access issue and potential some easement issues. But should that bear out, we will, of course, deal with that through the appropriate steps.
Have you seen any of the building drawings?
I know I've seen preliminary stuff. I don't know, obviously, they need additional time and they are trying to get this under construction at the end of the year, but they have a lot of things to submit to us, so
Okay.
we don't quite know yet.
Thank you.
And we're actively working on that. We've got the easements working forward. Unfortunately, our surveyor that's working on it just had a baby the other day. I personally don't think that's an excuse.
Your surveyor did.
What's that?
Your surveyor had the baby?
Well, not my surveyor, but my surveyor's wife.
Surveyor's wife,
So-
yes, thank you.
But anyways, we are working on that stuff, and we'll get that stuff over to you as soon as we get it completed, and we'll definitely get it to you before we get it completed so we can review it.
And I think there's some things we need to discuss about that after the meeting or tomorrow or whatever.
No problem.
Okay.
Give me a call.
As far as for the staff, do they need to correct their cover letter in regard to the background, where it says, the last sentence says the 2-year period expired on April 24th, 2021? Should that be 23? Or is 21 correct?
Well, to be honest, I thought I corrected that, but yes, it should be 23. Okay.
Any other questions from board members? Staff, do you have any comments or any recommendations?
Yes, the recommendation is for the Board of Zoning Appeals to grant an additional 2-year extension to the period for them to obtain the building or the occupancy permit, and this new period would expire April 24th, 2025.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody in the audience have any questions?
Public hearing is not necessary.
Oh, not necessary, sorry. Members of the board? Do you have a motion or anything?
Make one.
Do we need a motion?
Of course you do.
Good, okay, well, just checking out.
I'll make that motion that we grant it for 24, 25.
And with the recommendations also?
Recommendation of staff.
Okay, can you use the microphone, because I
Oh.
really can't hear you?
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Great.
Anyway, I'm going to make that recommendation for 23, 24, 25, since it's expired.
You're making a motion
Making the motion
to extend the conditional
Extend the
use
conditional
period
use
to
to this-
April 24th, 2025, correct?
April 24th, 25. Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes?
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good evening.
good luck digging.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to new business. First item is Z-23-2010, petition for G Squared Developers, LLC, for a developmental variance regarding Title Section 3.30, parens B, to reduce the lot size to 6,000 square feet for the construction of a 2-story, 2-unit residential building located at 948 Summer Street in the city of Hammond. Have all notification requirements been met?
Yes, we have.
Right? Would the petitioner please come forward, state your name and sign in, please?
Good evening, my name is Daniel Gill, partner at G Squared Developers. With me, I have Guadalupe Garcia. Our petition is to ask for the variance for reduction to 6,000 square feet from 250 square feet to build a 2-flat residential building.
Anything else you would like to tell us about this?
Do not believe so.
Okay.
Perhaps
Yes.
that you might want to talk about, or I guess state for the record, number one, that you're a contingent purchaser.
Yes.
2, that you are working on a design at this point, which was an upper and lower unit, and there were discussions of the removal of the driveway and the curb cut, and that, you know, if there is going to be off-street parking, that it would be at the alley.
Agreed.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you, Ryan.
Any questions from board members?
I do. I see the survey here, Mr. Poland, but I don't see any parking.
I just commented on that,
Did I miss it?
well, that there will be parking at the alley, but they are not, I guess it says it in the report that they're not, in their cover letter, they're not planning on putting that in at this time. But
Thank you.
that's where it would go in the backyard.
Correct.
So there's enough space to do that?
Based on the building, expected kind of like building area, yes, there would be
Okay.
space in the backyard for either a parking pad or a garage structure.
Correct.
Thank you.
Which would be more likely a parking pad.
I noticed in your rendering from the architect that it is a proposed building,
Yes.
but with the building, are you trying to design like a duplex type thing?
It would be a two-flat, two-story. So duplex, more or less.
Okay.
2 units.
So it'd be
Upstairs,
two-
downstairs.
One unit and then another unit as part of
Yes.
that?
Yep.
Right.
It's not like going to the back to get to the other
No,
unit?
you'd have a main entrance off the main road there on Summer Street, and we haven't decided if we're going to do one single entrance or two separate entrances, kind of shaking that out in the design. But you would enter the building from the front. You would have an egress through the back. Second egress.
Right. Any other questions?
Maybe.
Right, any other comments from either one of you?
No.
Okay.
No.
We will move to a period of public expression. Anybody in the audience like to make any comments for or against this project?
Say it.
Anyone in the audience like to make any comments in regard to this project on 948 Summer Street? Sir, would you like to come forward and state your name and address and sign in, please?
Sir, I think the sign-in, sir, the sign-in sheet, you need to sign in, state your name for the record, okay?
Are both of you together or separate? Separate. Okay.
Hi, my name's Omar Perez. I live right across this new project. I have a few questions. First,
Can you bring the microphone closer?
sorry.
Okay, what's going to happen now, you're going to present your questions, and they will be addressed after we finish this, anybody else has comments by the petitioner, okay?
Yes. I just want to know if this is going to be a renting, or is it for the people that's building the project, pretty much?
So in other words, if they're going to buy the property,
Live in the
own
property?
it, own it or rent it?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
For now, that's my main question.
Okay. All right, thank you. Would you like to state your name and address then, for our other person?
Should I translate? Because I don't think he speaks English.
Yes, you can translate, just state his name and his address for the record.
Melchor Cruz.
Melchor Cruz.
I vivo en la 939 de la Summer Street.
He lives, it's two houses away from me, so it's,
Okay, so he's across the street?
yeah, right
Okay.
across. Yes.
Ok, entonces lo que queremos es, si van a vivir sea un apartamento o una casa está bien, pero los apartamentos necesitan mucho también como parking.
His main concern is parking, because if it's going to be a big house, there's only one side of the street, and he's concerned about the parking space. If they're going to build more space in the back, or
Or if he would be parking in front of his
Yes.
home? Okay.
pues sí, porque la casa que había antes allí había mucho problema con todo el parqueadero.
Yeah, the house that used to be there before, there was a lot of problems because of that. A lot of problems because of the parking space, and now there's going to be a new house, so that's the main concern.
Any other questions he might have?
That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak for or against this project? Okay, would you like to answer their questions and their concerns?
Are you able to also speak in Spanish?
No.
Okay, Lupe?
Lupe?
Oh, okay.
No,
I was
sorry.
hoping for that.
Could we ask the other man to
Translate.
translate?
Sir in the red,
Would you mind translating the answers?
would you help translate?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, we appreciate it. So we'll take the questions one at a time. So the first question was whether or not the property is going to be rental, and your answer would be?
Yes. I mean, at this point, our intention is to rent it. If we get the opportunity to sell it to somebody who may do an owner-occupied down the road, then that's kind of our option, what we intend to do. So, but
Okay.
initially, it's going to rent it.
Okay, so current plans, both units are being rented.
Both units will be rented.
Okay.
Okay, the next was in regard to parking?
Well, whoa.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry.
Do you want to translate that answer for him? Or was your question? That was your question. Sorry, sorry about that. Okay, the second question was the parking.
Right, so we had discussed earlier that we'd be putting a lot in back or a slab in back for at least, 2 parking spaces. Being a 2-unit, we'd intend, we can't control how many people park there, but we'd have just enough spacing for at least 2 vehicles in back.
And
Okay.
where would the other vehicles park?
They would be off-street.
Do you want to translate that for him?
Aquí dice que sí planean hacer estacionamiento en la parte trasera y lo que necesiten de usar de la parte de enfrente también. Y la primera pregunta es de que el apartamento se usará para rentar el primer piso y el segundo también.
Does he seem to understand your answer?
I answered.
Yeah, I can't see him, so I can't tell if he seemed to understand and he didn't have any further questions.
Is that his wife with him? Or the person next to him?
Por ejemplo, yo estoy de desacuerdo porque la casa que había antes teníamos mucho problema con los vecinos que con los renteros.
Porque había mucha
Vendían mucha droga también y no sabíamos la gente que venía a rentar allí.
hemos tenido problemas con los vecinos.
Entonces nos oponemos si es de renta, si es una casa para vivir, está bien.
Me and him are not in favor of a building that's going to be for renting, because the house that used to be there before, it was teared down because of all the problems that was going on in that house. And that's the main thing, that we're not in favor of a new building that's for renting there, because it caused a lot of problems before there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Right. Did you want to make any other comments, or are you fine?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right, we will close this period of public comments. And members of the board, do you have any further questions? All right. And we have our staff report.
Yeah, just for clarity, the variance is to reduce the size of the lot from the requirement of 6,250 square feet for 2 units to allow the 2 units on a 6,000 square foot lot. So the staff did an evaluation of the adjacent properties, and that the shape of this property is a very unusual shape. It is a bit of what is a trapezoid, so it's not a perfect rectangle. And the south side of the street tapers to the west, and so there are even smaller lots to the west of the property that also have 2 units on it. There are some lots to the east that are a little bit larger that have 2 units. There's only, I'm sorry, there, in the south side of the street, there's only 3 other 2-unit buildings that we were able to determine. This would be the 4th, and that is, on the other side of the street, there were 3 2-unit buildings and then 1 8-unit building. The rest of that were single family. So in comparison to some of our neighborhoods, there's not a large number of extra units on the street, and it's within keeping of the zoning requirement. So therefore, well, the reduction that's being asked for is 250 square feet or 4% of the lot size, and staff is recommending that should the board feel that the petitioner has met the standards, that the BZA grant the variance subject to the removal of the existing curb cut, the replacement of the sidewalk, and a standard curb cut in accordance with the city standards.
And the recommendation with the removal of the existing curb cut will also give another place for parking?
The recommendation is to grant the variance subject to the removal of the existing curb cut and replacement with sidewalk and curbing.
Okay.
So I think what you're trying to get at is that would allow for an additional on-street spot.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure it was public. All right, do we have a motion in regard to Z-23-10? But I think we need to accept the staff report and its recommendations. First, we need to go over it's been a while since we had our meetings, hasn't it? We need to go over the proposed findings of fact. Any board members like to make any comments in regard to the proposed findings of fact? For this developmental variance, that must meet the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, moral, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, and the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Board members? Comments?
Is there a motion to approve the findings of fact in the staff report, please?
We were waiting on that. I'll make the motion to accept the findings of fact.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the staff report?
And the
Accept the findings of fact.
staff report and the proposed findings of fact? Both.
Staff report and the findings of fact.
With the recommendations.
Correct.
Okay, we have such a motion, we have a second, correct?
Yes.
Roll call?
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutt,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes?
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Right?
Next motion?
Pardon?
The next motion?
Now, do we have a motion to approve or deny the developmental variance?
I'll make the motion to approve,
have a
subject to,
second?
Go ahead, subject to?
yeah, subject to the petitioner meets the standards in the town staff report.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call vote.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brown.
Yes.
William Hutt,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes?
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
All right. Good luck. We have next two relate to the same location. Can I read both of them and vote separately? Is that all right, Mr. Poland?
They can be brought, you can call both of them at the same time as long as the petitioner understands that you need to address both of them and that the motions need to be voted on separately.
Any problems? Okay. Z-23-11, petition of Latrice Riggins for a conditional use permit regarding Title Section 7.11, 12, to allow a restaurant/cafe in a C1 local commercial district located at 6257 Holman Avenue in the city of Hammond. And we also have Z-23-12, petition of Latrice Riggins for developmental variance regarding Title Section 1.50, definition of restaurant cafe, to allow a restaurant cafe with no more than 20 customer seats in a C1 local commercial district located at 6257 Holman Avenue in the city of Hammond.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a technical correction to the agenda. The 6257 Holman Avenue is the address of the property. 6255 is the address of where the restaurant is going. It is in one of the units of the building. So the record should be standard that this is approved. The request is coming for 6255 Holman Avenue.
Okay. The petitioner come forward, state your name and your address, please.
Hello, my name is Latrice Riggins. I entered into, I'm sorry, I should sign in, right?
Yes, you could. And then if you could also state your current address for the record. I can't hear you.
Yes. I will be there. Have all notification requirements been met for both? Okay,
Okay, sorry,
Oh,
Ms.
it's
Riggins,
okay.
if you can go ahead now.
Okay. My current address is 7412 Monroe Avenue, Hammond, Indiana. I entered into a lease with the property owner in the summer of 2023 for the storefront of 6255 Holman Avenue. The location is a C1 local commercial district, which is common in that area. There are 2 commercial units in the front on the first floor, and there are 2 residential units upstairs. So basically, it's a small cafe, and I'm asking for a conditional use permit, primarily cold foods, smoothies, sandwiches, juices, things like that. It doesn't require any deep frying, no heavy cooking. Also, with the developmental and variance definition to increase the occupancy limit, right now, I believe the limit is 9 seats, and so I'm asking for approval of 16 seats for the cafe. It was inspected by the fire department, and they gave it a go, met our requirements, and I did receive a health permit, so,
And you mean from the Lake County Health Department?
yes.
Okay.
And it doesn't expire to March 2024.
Right? Anything else?
No.
Any questions? Okay, it's a lease that you have, correct?
Correct.
For the property.
Yes.
The recommendations then, as far as for the staff, there were several things as far as the floor grading and the parking lot, would that go with the owner of the property?
Okay, we should address that later under the staff report.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
How many parking spaces are necessary for 20 seats or 16 seats?
I think if you look at your staff report, you will see some information that's specific to that.
Yeah, for 16 seats, it's 5 spaces, and for 20 seats, it's 7 spaces.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that parking lot to be shared by everybody on that parcel?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
In the whole parcel with both restaurants? Or one? Or just hers?
If you're asking, there are 2 restaurants and 2 residential apartments.
Okay, so it will involve everything on that property, even though there's different addresses? So it would affect the 2 residents upstairs as well as the 2 businesses on the lower level, correct?
Well, yes, parking is calculated cumulatively, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The parking requirement is calculated, together, yes,
Yeah,
with all 4 units.
okay. And they would require how many then total?
We're looking at, so for 16 seats, they would need 15 parking spaces, and for 20 seats, which is what the city was willing to grant, they would need a total of 17 spaces.
Okay, I don't know if that's what Mr. Haddon was wondering about, and
No,
that's how I thought.
my
I thought
question
it
was
the
answered.
whole,
Thank you.
the
Okay.
whole unit.
Ms. Hill, could you
Yeah.
please speak into the microphone?
Oh, I thought,
I cannot hear you over
I
here.
asked as far as if it was for the whole unit, for the parking.
No, my question was answered. Thank you.
Okay. Mine wasn't. Right. Okay, so there's not going to be an answer to that, all right. Any other questions from the board?
So I think just for clarity of what is being asked for versus what is wording and how that translates into the parking. So as Ms. Riggins said, is that she's asking for 16. The applications were written up to 20. That is potentially an opportunity in the future that she wanted to add another table.
Yes.
And that, anticipating it in that way, it would prevent her from having to come back to the board for one more table. From the issue of the number of seats, the number of other uses on the property, there is, what I think Tom was trying to explain, there is a chart in the staff report that talks about what is the required number of parking spaces. And so that's just for repeating for the record. If it is 16 seats, then it's 15 spaces. And if it is 20 seats, it's 17 spaces. And one of the things is that this parking lot design that we are provided only has 14 spaces. So there may be an opportunity with a better design to get a couple of more spaces. From our staff evaluation, we're thinking there's possibly ability to get 2 more parking spaces on the property, so that would be 16. So it's kind of somewhere between the 15, obviously 15 and 17. And what we're trying to approach this as is that allowing her to have the number of seats is dependent upon the number of parking spaces provided. And that if we're going to, okay. It also is predicated on that we need a little bit better site plan to know that that is designed appropriately. And that way we can kind of lock those numbers in a little bit better. So with the anticipation that there can be 16 parking spaces that would allow the 16 seats. If there's a way of getting another parking space, then that would allow the 20 seats. So not to get too far into what the staff recommendation is, so I'll kind of pause at this point before we get into the recommendation, but I want you to understand this way of we're trying to approach this as anticipating what could happen in the future, because the space is able to handle more seats. It's just, it's really, is the parking available that matches it?
Okay, but I know you don't want to get into staff recommendations, but reading the recommendations is requiring as far as improvement of a parking lot too, correct?
Yes, and
And
that
I
is,
basically wanted to know, is this her responsibility, or is this the owner of the property, where she could, owner of the property is not willing to work with you or her, then the business will not be able to be in existence.
yeah, again, I think that's something that we want to put on to the staff recommendation and not at this stage. But I will say that that is something that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
So,
This will be addressed between you and the,
it will be,
on a staff basis.
we
then.
will bring that to discussion at the time of the staff report, and that way you will understand what needs to, how it should be handled.
All right. Any other questions from board members? Okay, thank you very much. We'll take public expression then, or comments. Okay, anybody in the public like to make any comments pro or against these issues, comments?
Just a reminder to those online, you have to unmute. You can press the space bar or click the unmute button on your screen.
Are you able to know if they wanted to make any comments?
Well, yeah, if they interact, we can. They can unmute and raise their hand.
Do we want to ask them to raise their hands if they would like to address the board? Seeing none? And hearing none from the audience, we will close the period of public expression. All right. Now for the long-awaited presentation of the staff report.
So we received communication from the Hammond Department of Environmental Management. And so, Tom, if you would kind of summarize what we have been, information we received.
Well, Ron Novak, the director of HDEM, basically broke down that the parking area has been elevated and covered with crushed stone, which creates particles that can be blown off the premises, tracking adjacent city streets. Basically, he went into the fact that the sanitary district, with their stormwater treatment, and his department environmentally, had concerns of the parking lot not being finished with an impervious surface like asphalt. And that, you know, he believes that this has to be something that is included with any approval, and that it has to be done in a timely manner because, he asserts that it has been a bit overdue.
So we have documentation of the concerns from the Department of Environmental Management about the surface material of the parking lot and in essence, the dust and the gravel being tracked through the neighborhood. So not to put you on the spot, Ms. Riggins, but could you come to the microphone?
So this affects both Z 23, 11, and 12? Or just 11?
Well, we are discussing both at the same time.
Okay,
Yes,
just
yeah.
check, just verifying it.
He addresses it to both cases in his
Okay.
memo,
Okay,
yes.
so we got this letter from the Department of Biomanagement today.
Okay.
And we certainly weren't surprised by it. We kind of knew this was coming. So in your discussions or your lease arrangements with the landlord, did any of this conversation ever come up about the parking lot?
No.
Okay.
He is responsible for all structural, but this never came up.
Okay, so it is kind of a rock and a hard place in the fact that your landlord's not here.
Yeah.
And because it is his, as a property owner's responsibility to fix the parking lot.
Yes.
And part of that fixing of the parking lot not only is the drainage and the surface material, it's the striping pattern. And the parking of the striping pattern is critical to the number of seats that we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And I know that internally we commented that the site plan that was presented to us, I know the accessible space is in the wrong location. And it has to be over by, in essence, your entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some things that really need to be addressed. So while this is not something, to have this awkward situation is very difficult for us because in essence, your landlord has a violation because of this parking lot, okay? And but we're trying to be fair to you because that's your landlord's responsibility, but it's still tied into you because of the number of seats. So it's really kind of challenging just because of the interconnection. So,
There's also something in regard to the door entrance and that would be part of the
use the
building.
microphone.
Okay, sorry.
I can't,
just
I'm
thought
sitting
of
right
it.
here and I can't hear you.
All right. I said there was also something in regard to the door that would be part of the building itself, and that would be the landlord's definite responsibility too, correct? Or we don't bring this up yet?
I'm not, what do you mean by I'm sorry, clarify the door.
There was, I thought I read something in regard to the grade of the door frame does not match ground outside on D2311 in
One
your
of the-
staff report.
Sorry, one of the recommendations is, yes, that complete any improvements necessary for the main entrance to comply with ADA regulations. So all of that is part of the recommendation, yes. Staff has noted that. And I believe if she's correct, according to the structural in her lease, that would be the owner's responsibility.
Yeah.
Were you aware of any of these comments before tonight?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
I have a question, Brian. Can we table this until the owner comes in for his responsibility? It's not hers.
I would not encourage the tabling of this.
Okay.
I think we need to address this tonight, and we can put some conditions of approval, and that, in essence, we need to make, us need to make an effort to talk to the property owner to address these issues. If there's an issue with the door and the threshold, that is also a code issue. If there's any seepage or drainage problems, that's a very significant issue. I think her question before the board is, can she have the restaurant? How many seats can she have? So it's perfectly legitimate to
We don't know.
approve that with these conditions that things need to be remedied.
Yeah, and I will point out that, the city can reserve the right to, issue a citation for non-compliance to the owner. Hopefully we don't have to go that route, or, bring the case back up if the conditions aren't met in front of you guys.
Okay,
He would
so we
never-
wouldn't know how many seats she would really be able to use there for her parking until,
And Nancy, can you also use the microphone, please?
oh, I'm sorry. My question is, do we really know how many seats she could use at this time if the parking isn't taken care of?
Based on what we have been
Yeah.
presented as a site plan, we know there's 14 spaces. We also know that there is space for 2 more, so that's 16 spaces. She only needs 15 for the 16. She
Right.
needs
Sorry,
17.
20 for 17.
She needs,
Yes.
so based on the evidence presented and, some interpretation of the site plan, you can approach this as granting approval for the conditional use. You can grant the number of seats based on the known 16 spaces or presumed 16 spaces, and that she can get an additional table when she's able to provide documentation that the other parking
Other
spaces are
parking.
there.
So in other words, she would be able to operate the restaurant as is without any work done on the parking lot or the door? This is the question.
It is a question, and it's a difficult question to answer because, what we're suggesting is that, yes, she can operate with these conditions, everything being remedied.
With everything being remedied.
Mhm.
Right. If that's not remedied, no matter what we approve tonight, she could not operate.
I'm not saying that.
Well, okay. Well,
Is that if you're going to grant the conditional use and, in essence, 16 of the 20 spaces, you have enough information to grant that.
Okay.
And it's the question of the extra table is predicated upon her, the parking lot finding that extra space.
so she could operate.
Yes.
Okay, that's basically, I think she'd like to walk out knowing that at least. Have you contacted the owners yet or not yet?
His attorney, Robert.
Because would that be the city, the staff that would be contacting them, or would she have to? So she knows that information.
I think,
I've been in this place, I've stopped in, and she is bubbling. She just was glowing when I walked in the door, okay? I have nothing, I will vote because I don't know you personally, but
Yeah, I remember you
Good first impression,
that day. Oh, that was
Great.
impressive.
okay. So what?
well, so I
Who contacts the owner
Kathy,
of
he's
the
trying to
property?
answer the question.
was going
Okay,
to say, the city staff can negotiate with the owner. The owner does have the attorney, Robert Sorge, on retainer, whose office is actually next door to this business. And he, is aware of this case and was provided a copy of the staff report. So, he is in communication with the owner and we'll continue to work with him.
okay, thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
I guess I just want to be sure that I understand this, and I agree. You are a bubbly person. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Thank you.
And Brian, I just want to make sure that regardless of the condition of the parking lot right now, in the entrance, this lady can open? She can
She
operate?
is open. She can basically.
She's open?
She is open.
Open, okay.
But this Thursday
What
is-
time is it?
May I?
I agree.
Doggone it. Thank you. I'm good.
All right, any other questions? We've had the staff report for both of them, correct? Or no?
I think we need to officially go through the process of documenting Z 2311 staff report and
And then
then
we
the
can
findings of
vote on
fact, and then we'll go to 12.
Okay, and we will vote on, take care of the 11 first.
Yes, we are.
Okay, you want to continue with the staff report for Z 2311, please?
Yes, I'll read the recommendation. In the case of Z 2311, staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the conditional use permit should the board feel the petitioners met the standards, subject to the following conditions. 1, approval by the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals of the developmental variance case known as Z 2312, in compliance with all of that case's conditions. 2, property owner or otherwise responsible party must, in a timely manner, complete improvements necessary for the main entrance to comply with ADA guidelines.
Okay. We have proposed findings of fact. Do we want to go through any of those at this time, or would like to accept them in the staff report?
Make a motion, we accept them. Make a motion, we accept them.
Okay, both the staff report and the findings of fact. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a roll call vote? Or can we have a roll call? May we?
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brown.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes.
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
All right. Do we have a motion in regard to the conditional use permit for Z-23-11?
I'll make the motion to grant the conditioner's request, subject to meets the standards provided in the staff report.
And the recommendations?
I mean, the standards or the conditions?
Oh, both.
And the recommendations. Okay, we have such a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brown.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes.
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Okay, good luck on this part. I have a dumb question as long as I'm continuing the question. There was a comment in the staff report that the owner did pass a background check conducted. Do they all have to have background checks? for
When business
businesses?
licenses are reviewed, there are background checks
Oh,
for
okay.
the operators.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can we move to Z-23-12, the developmental variance?
Oh, ma'am,
Don't move, you still got one more.
I'm not voting on the 20.
You're not released
sorry.
yet. You're not
To be-
released.
To be clear, we're voting on the 20
You
seats now.
can't go home
The
and rest
first-
for
yeah.
work tomorrow.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
I was ecstatic a little bit.
Well, so-
Relieved.
She's got a lot to think about right now.
Yes, okay. So you'll want me to read the staff recommendation for Z 2312. Staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the developmental variance. Should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards, subject to the following conditions. 1, approval by the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals of the conditional use permit case known as Z 2311. 2, property owner or otherwise responsible party must, in a timely manner, complete improvements to the parking lot, including but not limited to additional landscaping, paving, drainage, and restriping of spaces in accordance with zoning ordinance and ADA guidelines. 3, no storage of any vehicles nor leasing parking spaces to non-owners or non-tenants if such storage utilizes parking spaces intended for business tenant employees and customers or for residential tenants of this primary building. 4, no storage of junk vehicles on site. And 5, indoor seating for customers limited to no more than 16 seats with an allowance for up to 20 seats once a parking lot design is prepared and installed to accommodate both 20 seats and all other uses of the property.
Okay, we also have, as far as proposed findings of fact, would you like to just make a motion to approve the staff report with its recommendations and the findings of fact?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote?
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes.
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Right, did you get copies of this?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion in regard to the conditional use permit? I mean, as far as the developmental variance for Z-2312.
I'll make the motion to approve, provided that the petitioner follows the 5 conditions provided in the staff report.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, roll call vote, please.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes,
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
good luck.
Thank you.
Now you can go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Now you may go. All right, we have one more item on our agenda. This is Z-23-13, petition of Evelyn Reynolds for a conditional use regarding Title Section 7.11 to allow a place of assembly not to exceed 50-person. This is also known as a combination event space and a dance studio in a C1 local commercial district located at 2732 through 2738 165th Street in the city of Hammond. Have all requirements been met?
Yes, they have.
All right, can we have the petitioner come forward, state her name and address, and sign in, please?
Yes, I'm Evelyn Reynolds, address 338 Bensley Avenue, Calumet City, Illinois, 60409.
Right, and you signed in already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was pretty much trying to get a business license, trying to open a event spot / dance studio, which we've been doing it for 10 years now, and the dance studio has been going for 15 years now. The event spot is no more than 50 people. The is from 30 and older, no teenage parties. We do repasts, we do birthdays, baby showers. The dance studio is no more than 25 kids, ages 5 to 17.
Yes, you may come up and state your name and sign in also.
Hello, my name is Jessie Williams. The dance studio, we train the kids on getting ready for the parade, trying to keep the kids off the street pretty much and everything. Pretty much, we do fundraisers for the kids. We try to bring back to the neighborhood, trying to make sure, we keep them off the street. Being a grandma, I guess you understand. Yeah, we just try to make sure that they're ready to, to get into life, to try something different. That's
Right.
pretty much it.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about the project?
Not really, just,
No. And we had we also had the Hammond Fire Department to come out and inspect the place. And the only thing he told us was we needed exit signs, which we put it up already. It was only one missing, and we had that done already. And he said we could occupy at least 50 people.
Oh, right, and that 50 people is based on fire department regulations, and not to jump ahead, but this is very similar to the previous case regarding the parking lot and number of spaces. Okay? Just a few things for clarity. What's your operating hours?
Right now, we have operating hours, like, during the week, if they want to do a party, we start like at 12 o'clock till 9 o'clock. And on the weekends, we do, what'd you say, 7 till, 12, 7 to 12.
Okay, 7 PM to 12 AM.
Yeah,
That would be Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
yes. And the dance studio, they only practice twice a week, which is on a Monday and a Thursday, and their time is from 6 to 8.
Okay, and then you talked about repasts and baby showers. Those are typically during the day?
Yes, yes.
Now, do you serve food? Will food come in from another place?
No, we don't serve any food. They bring their own food. They bring whatever they want to bring. We don't serve anything. We just rent the spot out.
Okay.
And we also do decorations ourselves. So if they want to rent it out, do our decorations and stuff like that.
Okay. Alcoholic beverage?
No.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, so just to be clear, they're free to hire catering services?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
long as they're licensed,
Yeah.
No alcohol?
no,
What about food preparation?
no, not up in there.
So you don't,
They bring their own food.
Or a caterer?
It's catered.
Yes, pretty much,
Yeah.
have to be licensed.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Mr. Poland, did you want to bring anything else to our attention at this time?
And I think we can go to public comment, and then when we get into the staff report, we'll discuss the parking again.
Thank you. Okay, anybody in the
You
public?
can sit down for now.
You can sit down.
Thank you.
And as I stated before, make your comments, questions, or anything or concerns, and they will address them after we've heard them all. And he's signing in.
Good evening. My name is Jim Camrant. I'm the owner of Freddy's Steakhouse, almost across the street from that place. I've been there 19 years. I have a lot of questions about the property. It's a pretty big building. It looks like they're only going to use half right now. I don't know if they're going to use the whole thing, but there's no parking there. And I don't want them coming across the street to my parking lot, because I'm also open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I don't want to have a conflict with people or scaring away my people that I have now. They have very little parking there. They had a party or something going on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. There's cars all over. It says catering right on the door. We do catering or something like that. I don't know what they're doing there. If you're having a dance studio or something for kids, why aren't they there in the daytime? Why do they have to be there at 11, 12 o'clock at night? It's just, I don't think it's right. The building is right for them. What happens if they use the whole building? Is there going to be 100 people there, 200 people there? Do they have a big enough bathroom? Is there bathroom facilities there for 50, 100, 200 people? And where are they all going to park? It's just, it's not a building made for that. There's no parking. I mean, if they're going to have 100, 200 people there, where are they going to park? They're going to come across the street to me. And I don't want to be fighting with neighbors or anything. It's just, I don't know what it was zoned before, but the people that were there before had a window company or that. They had very few customers that would park out back. So I think they need parking, or I don't know if they plan on renting out the other half of the building or what's going on with that building. But I think there's probably going to be problems.
Okay. Any other concerns besides your parking?
I'm worried about alcohol. Friday, Saturday night, there's a lot of pop-up places popping up. Is there going to be alcohol? Is people going to bring alcohol in? a lot of questions. Building size, bathroom size, parking size, alcohol. Why do they have to be open at 11, 12 o'clock at night? It just sounds like it's going to be a problem. I know a lot of my people might be scared to come out if they see cars parked all over, or they don't want to fight in our parking lot over parking. I think they need a lot of additional parking lot to do that. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Would you like to address his concerns?
I also want to point out that the owner of the property is online.
Okay, the other side is actually his storage place, so they would nobody be using that, and we'll be able to use that parking space too, so all that'll be ours. And additional, on the side of the building is also parking where we could park there also. And with the dance team, our dance team dance practice from 6 to 8 only because they're in school. So it won't be, it's not no late practice for the kids. And as far as having our parties and everything, we don't go past 12 o'clock. So.
Okay, and one of the other questions was the alcohol, and I think you indicated in your presentation that before that you did not.
We don't serve alcohol.
Right.
Like if it's a party and they want to bring their own, they could bring it, but we don't serve
Okay,
alcohol.
all right, so I think.
We don't do it.
I think that might be a bit of a concern that your people bring it in, because that might be because you don't have a liquor license in order for us to bring stuff in, that would become a problem.
Right.
So if you have people bringing it in, then you need to do all appropriate efforts to prevent that.
Okay.
Okay?
So they would need a liquor license for bringing your own liquor then?
I would say that there would be significant complaints if someone, if any operation is bringing liquor in from the outside. We've had issues, I think, in potentially other areas of the city where that became a problem. So, I won't go into specifics, but there was a situation in Hessville. Of course, I know this is Hessville too, but no. So, a different part of Hessville, which was advertised as a BYOB, and that there was, let's say, the police were called out. And so I think it's a legitimate concern when it comes to controlling outside people from bringing alcohol into it, because that can be difficult to control, difficult to, it can lead to unintended consequences. So I think it becomes our recommendation that, Tom, we may want to add in is that you have to establish a formal policy of no alcohol at your events.
Okay, and at all our events too, we also have security there.
Okay, that would be helpful.
So all your
Okay.
I'm one of the owners of Hammond, and the Freddy Steakhouse is not close to, he's not even on the neighbor. He's a little away, and I don't think people would park and cross over
Way over there.
to come to our building. And he's not even adjacent the neighbor to us, to our property.
Okay, sir, did you state your name and address for the record? I didn't quite hear you.
I'm sorry. My name is Prakash Kumar. I'm one of the owners of the building.
Okay, thank you.
And your address?
I live in 10244 Applewood Court, Munster, Indiana 46321.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you are presently in operation now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The activities that you've had, how many people have you normally had? What's your average?
We don't have more than 50 people.
More than 50?
And then, like I said, for the kids, we only have 25 kids.
Okay. Because I know there's a mention as far as not to exceed 100, but that's part of the
The zoning provision is not to exceed 100. What we are addressing in our discussion here is the fact that it has been set at 50, and that is also dependent upon adequate parking. Again,
Okay.
the number will be controlled based on
The number of parking.
number of parking spaces, similar to what the previous case was.
Okay, all right. I think he also mentioned restroom facilities. Concern
Well,
on that?
the fire department came out and he said it was okay for the one that we have.
All right.
Okay, the fire department came out, but have you had the building commissioner, Bob Vale, or Bill Luter come through the property?
No.
Okay, because that's really where the number of bathrooms, that comes from that office, not so much the fire department. So that is something that needs to be addressed in the conditions. Right, Tom?
Yes, I agree that needs to be added to the conditions. I do know the fire department, his only comment was that he didn't, that she at least probably should consider getting 2 bathrooms for each gender,
Yeah.
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 Or a family room and
Okay, so one of the things that we've been talking internally on is the parking, and then how that dictates to the number of spaces. So there's been a couple of parking lot designs that have been presented to us, and that we have questioned some of the technical aspects of it, and that and that's what determines the occupancy. We know that the window company did use the parkway off of the side street for some of their parking spaces. However, those are, technically we can't count them because they're in the public right-of-way, and without double checking the records, whether or not they are even designed appropriately, because you typically aren't allowed to back into a street. But parallel spaces would be typically what you'd find on a public street. So, Tom, I'm going to let you describe the parking lot design and the calculations.
Okay, do we want to close this period of public expression though before?
Oh,
we
I'm
get the
sorry.
staff report?
I apologize to that. You're right, because we haven't closed public hearing. Thank you for correcting me.
Well, with mutual.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
We'll close this period of public expression, comments, and we'll move to any other questions from board members.
Was there anyone else in the public who wished to speak on Zoom or in the hall? You're on Zoom, remember to unmute.
Okay, so we again will officially close this period of public comments. No questions,
Okay.
other additional questions from board members? We will ask for the staff report then.
Okay, yeah. So, as Brian alluded to with the parking, the occupancy would be tied directly to the number of legal parking spaces that can be fit in the back. We're working with a space that's approximately 111 feet wide by 58 feet deep. The primary challenge to this situation is the grading of the parking lot. There is a steep grade at the northwest and northeast corners, not suitable for ADA parking. Normally, we would ask ADA space to be at the northwest, the closest corner to the entrance, but there may be grading concerns. Necessary even maybe to have a retaining wall installed along there. So, a very rough estimate, perhaps they could fit 17 parking spaces, which is where we got the number of persons being topped out at 50. So there would have to be at least 3 spaces for employees, her and her family, and then the rest would have to be dedicated to the event space. So, we could be looking at anywhere from maybe they could only fit 14, cars, but potentially up to 17. And so that would probably max occupancy for patrons of 47 plus 3 employees, that's where we get the 50 from. But if you take a look at the page 2 of the staff report, it does get into the table showing you, okay, here's how many parking spaces they have, here's how many people they're allowed to have at any one time in the building. So much like the last one, it would be based upon that, because we need to see finalized site plan drawings with the striping pattern that our city engineer and city planning staff agree to. So it's, I think that kind of covers that. So the big challenge here is, yes, the parking space. I don't know if the owner or anyone else wants to speak to plans for the parking lot, whether they have a general contractor or anything lined up.
Yes, I would like to comment on that.
Thank you.
We did provide the city our plans to regrade or re-level the ADA space, or we provided another plan where we can locate ADA space southwest corner, where we don't need to level so much, maybe a little. Also, we assured that we will take care of all the property has been vacant for so long. Obviously, you'll have weeds and everything on the parking lot because it has not been used. We will take care of it and resolve that stuff, and probably we'll also go with seed coating and level the grade. So if you can let us spot on the southwest corner, it would be helpful for us to level the place, not so much spending into it. Otherwise, northwest corner, might need, like you said, retaining wall, or we may have to use more gravel and asphalt to level the place and gradually get it off to the other side of the parking lot. That way, nobody's going to get hurt or whatever. So that's our plan.
So basically, Mr. Kumar needs to submit his parking plan to the staff, to the commission?
Well, I think what we want to clarify at this point is it's not just submitting to us a two-dimensional drawing showing how the spaces can be accommodated on the property. What we need to look for at this point is a properly engineered site plan that shows that addresses the grade changes, the slope and the grade when it comes to, in particular, we talked about the accessible space.
Also, I want to point out the drainage. There is a stormwater manhole in the center that, we need to make sure it drains towards that, not towards the staircase in the center.
And so, I'm sorry, and so that is something that we need to have as a requirement, that is properly engineered and improved, and I have to say that needs to be done before any further activities are going on in the building.
I'd also like to add, due to the fact that this building could be open until midnight, we want to make sure we have the proper lighting on all fronts.
The lighting, is important, but we also know that there's residential to the south, so that is the important thing to understand about lighting is that it is directed away from the residential property, and that is also why we talked about requiring, and Tom hasn't read the recommendations, but we are talking about a fence.
I'd also like to know who determines the occupancy, because the occupancy of the proposed use of the building is considerably different than the old occupancy.
Occupancy, of course, so you know, is based on fire code and building code. And we also have so that's one number. That number tends to be high or higher based on their criteria. So what we're saying here is that we have a zoning parking ratio. And based on the physical number of spaces that can be accommodated on the property, and then apply our ratio, that sets an occupancy based on zoning. And that is how we achieved the 50.
And number,
And that would be a condition of the approval, should you choose to approve it.
on number 2 on staff recommendations, it states that occupancy shall be a number less than 50 persons.
Not to get into it too much, but basically it's saying that until these plans are approved and completed, you know, this is based on the ratio that we just discussed, and that will never be over. You know, it's going to be a number under 50 based on the ratio we discussed. So basically, our point is, you know, if they can get 17 parking spaces, as they have indicated, they could have a maximum 50 occupancy, never above that. But that number may be less based on what the final engineer drawings for the parking lot show.
But the building could be large enough for 70.
It could, but we are setting a zoning restriction on the number of occupants.
And then how do we handle the parking across the street? And maybe we don't handle that, and that's not our responsibility, but there's not enough parking spaces for 70 people.
Well, first of all, 50, but we're assuming that, you know, 3 or 4 people come together in the same car, so, you know, we have that. But that is what parking ratios are commonly based on. It's not a single car, single occupant. Nobody would have enough parking for that.
Understand.
But, so we looked at that, and our concern is to make sure that the patrons don't go into the residential neighborhood, and the one-way street going the wrong direction would prevent that unless people are driving the wrong way down a street.
Yeah, to be clear, it's Marshall Avenue is a one-way until you get to the parking lot. So, yeah.
And we've also had them discuss with the family discount, whatever the name of that is.
Village discount, yes.
Okay, and my understanding of the response is that whoever at the store was unable to make a formal parking agreement with them because their liability issues would not allow them to do that. And so the spaces that we can't count are also, we talked about that there are spaces in the parkway, and we can't count them, but we know they're there.
And they are still able to operate even though the parking lot is not taken care of now.
That is a concern, similar to the previous case, that they should not be operating until this parking lot is addressed. And so we do have the owner of the property online, and therefore circumstances are a little different because of that we know that this parking lot needs to be brought up to standards, and that we know that we have to know what that final number of parking spaces is, what are legally going to fit, you know. So I think that's an important difference between the two cases that you need to make sure is addressed in whatever your decision is.
Was there a completion date to have this parking lot and other attributes, handicap accessibility, the bathrooms, et cetera?
I think that's something that you can address in your conditions if you so choose to approve the project.
Thank you.
Yes, does the owner have any?
If you give us a couple of months, we can complete the whole thing. But meanwhile, we request you to grant this permission to operate at a minimum level. We will guarantee you that we will not overcrowd the place and just use whatever the space we have in the back. And we also clean up the parking lot so that the patrons can park without any issues. So we will abide by whatever conditions you're going to put towards this project.
Would you be willing maybe to stripe a pattern?
Yes.
In the meantime, until the final pattern is?
We can work on that, but one thing would be we need to restripe again.
Yes.
Once we do the leveling and everything.
Yes, yes, we would expect that.
Let's be a little more direct about this. Who controls the location of the parking spaces or the people parking? If somebody opts to park in somebody else's property, who controls that?
If someone is parking on someone else's property and presuming they have the proper notifications, then that becomes an enforcement and a police matter. I believe it's police. I don't know if it's private or not, but, if you have a parking restriction, my patrons only, then that is partly a responsibility of the property owner to then enforce that through whatever appropriate means. If I'm going to say that if a person is parking illegally on a public way, that would be the police department. And so there are some those are extra things that property owners need to deal with.
Thank you.
If in our motion we suggest or we recommend that the parking be completed by such and such a date, is there a time factor that the staff would recommend for this total completion?
I believe the staff report proposes December 1st.
December 1st. Right?
Roughly 90.
I see it, December 1st.
Well, I mean, realistically, asphalt plants are going to shut down around that time period anyway.
Okay.
Was that, you didn't hear me?
No, I heard that part.
Okay.
Thank you.
Has Mr. Kumar seen this where he is aware of that December 1st deadline?
Yes, I am.
Okay, are you comfortable with it, Mr. Kumar?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, and did the staff want to consider as far as anything about the liquor or the restroom inspection and the lighting with the parking in their recommendation?
So currently in the recommendation, it does state that alcoholic beverages can only be offered through a licensed catering service. I don't know if we wanted to change that, but I did draft something to address the bathroom as well.
You just drafted that now, or that's number 6?
Well, are you guys comfortable? I guess it would be the board's, whatever the board wants, if they're okay with it being through a licensed catering service, or they want, more strict restrictions or less strict?
We had talked about that, it can't be the patrons bring their own in. That's, the BYOB, they can't do that. If it is through a catering service that has a liquor license, we can't prevent that.
So this catering service is a service outside of this building that brings food and drinks into the building.
Could we limit it to like beer and wine or something like that instead of mixed?
That's kind of the jurisdiction of the Alcohol Beverage Commission as to what liquor license someone holds as to what they can bring in or not.
So does the liquor license have to be held in Indiana only to be coming in there from a caterer? I mean, so if you, excuse me here, I'm going to repeat myself. So someone catering and they come in, do they have a liquor license from Indiana or Illinois?
They would have to have a liquor license in Indiana.
So basically catering out of Indiana. Thank you.
Yeah, they can be based in Illinois, but they have to also have their
Yeah,
Indiana,
yeah.
yes.
I mean, they may have both states, that's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because we're so
But
close.
a catering service from Illinois cannot bring alcohol in from Illinois because that would be potentially bringing alcohol across the state lines.
Okay, next question
Actually,
on that would be, who checks that?
Indiana ETC?
The excise commission, they have their own excise staff, like any other bar that is controlled by the excise. And it's also complaint-based.
It would have to be complaint-based because they automatically just don't come into every organization.
Well, no, and
to
I
check.
understand, I appreciate that, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to answer the question on a broader perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as, are you going to put anything as far as the inspection by the city that does as far as for restrooms? I believe that was mentioned as far as someone else needed to inspect.
So, they're always welcome to speak with our building department staff for this issue, but, just so you guys understand, if this was approved and went through, the business license process still needs to finish, and so code enforcement and fire department usually go on inspections together for the business license, and they would address that. If it was still insufficient at that time, they would address it with them. And just so you understand, the fire department did go out and take a look, but this was outside of the regular business license process. So they would come take a look again before they open formally.
So they don't have a
Or before
business
the-
license as of yet.
That is correct. They have applied, but it has not been issued.
Are they operating?
I believe they indicated that they have had some limited functions.
Well, technically, if they are, I mean, with all due respect, if you're operating without either this approval or the business license, you're operating in violation of 2 city codes. So just be aware of that.
Okay, you want to continue with your staff report?
Also, did we want to continue to the recommendation, or were we done with questions and discussions, or?
Okay.
I'm done.
I'm sorry. One more.
Go, by all means.
One more. So currently, this building is being used for functions right now, without a license.
Based on the information presented, yes.
Thank you.
All right, shall we move to as far as a proposed finding of fact? Are you done with the staff report, Mr. Novak?
I don't believe we presented the entire staff
Okay,
report.
you want to present the rest of it?
Yeah, do we want to move on to recommendation, or was there still more to? Okay, so I'll read on to the recommendation with the conditions so you guys can understand the conditions that we had proposed. In the case of Z 2313, staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the conditional use permit should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards subject to the following 10 conditions. Submittal, technical review, and final approval of engineer drawings for the parking lot, including grading and of the parking lot striping plan by city staff. 2, that until such drawings and plans are approved by city staff and the necessary work at the parking lot is completed by a licensed contractor, the maximum occupancy of the building shall remain in accordance with that prescribed under zoning ordinance title section 20.42.01F, which dictates the minimum number of off-street parking spaces available must equal 3 spaces more than 30% of the maximum occupancy limit of building, and that the max occupancy shall be a number less than 50 persons. Side note, I know that was very wordy. Again, see page 2 of the staff report for the table just showing that ratio. Number 3, that the necessary work to the parking lot be completed by a licensed contractor, and that the work be inspected and passed by the City of Hammond Inspections Department no later than by Friday, December 1st, 2023. 4, an appropriate 6-foot barrier, privacy fence, or approved alternative is erected between the south row of parking and the alleyway and rear of property. 5, food service and/or catering is subject to the Lake County Health Department provisions. 6, no offering or selling any alcoholic beverages on site unless through a licensed catering service, and no BYOB policy for patrons. 7, hours of operation are limited to 11 p.m. Sunday to Thursday, 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday, ceasing amplified music by 30 minutes before the specified closing times, except for allowing 1 a.m. being open on New Year's Day and amplified music ceasing by 12:45 a.m. 8, compliance with City of Hammond Municipal Code Chapter 7, which is in regards to the City of Hammond's noise ordinance. 9, compliance with Hammond City Code Chapters 94, 98, 101, 132, 150, and 160, and in particular sections enforcing litter, junk, trash receptacles, snow removal, and the harboring of a public nuisance as to maintain a sanitary, safe, and aesthetically pleasing property. And 10, meeting all public restroom requirements under International Building Code and as deemed by City Building Commissioner.
All right, we've received the staff report, been presented with their recommendations and their amendments. We also have, as far as proposed findings of fact, any comments in regard to the proposed findings of fact? We have a motion to accept the staff report and its recommendations and the amendments to the recommendation and the proposed findings of fact.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? Do you have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote?
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes.
4 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
I would assume that the fact that they do not have a license, that would be taken care of by the staff? No?
Sorry, what was your
They
question?
don't have a license to operate now.
They don't have a business license because they have not, they don't have a business license because they have not completed the process. And part of the process of.
Is the conditional use.
Well,
Is the,
if I may stay for clarity, that part of the business license requires zoning, the sign-off from my department for compliance with zoning, and so that this is accomplishing that step, so therefore it can be signed off on, if you're going to approve it.
do we have a motion in regard to Z-23-13?
I'll make the motion to approve, subject to the 10 conditions in the staff report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call vote?
Nancy Reagan,
No.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill,
Yes.
3 ayes, 1 nay, 0 abstention, motion passed.
All right. I think the staff and you and Mr. Kumar have a lot of work yet. All right, any commissioners' comments?
I'm sorry. Commissioner, did Commissioner comments?
Any staff comment?
Staff comments. We will have a meeting at the end of September. At this point, what we are expecting is to have, if the revised petition for U-Haul is coming back with a revised petition that we dealt with at the beginning of the year, and that the 3 cases associated to that were tabled will all come back. We're expecting that.
So we still have our work on that. Any changes to what we had in the past from them?
I'm sorry.
You were requested that we keep our other information on you all.
We are asking for them to provide us all new documents on everything.
So we do not need to bring back the other one.
No.
Thank you very much.
Because it's been more than 6 months, so therefore it
We
is,
start all over. again.
there's an essence.
Okay, could I request that maybe we look as far as October 31st as our meeting, that's Halloween, and that is like darkness and kids running down, up and down the street? That time? Just a
Shannon,
comment.
when we discussed the calendar, did we address
Halloween.
Halloween?
I don't believe so.
I just looked at it the other day.
So that is a question of how the board wants to deal with it. Do you want to keep the meeting on October 31st, or do you want to make an adjustment?
Or make an adjustment.
You want to make an adjustment?
I'm good with the 31st.
I'm fine with the 31st.
Okay. It's up to the staff, I guess, then. All right,
Okay, so I'm sorry, because again,
we had 2 and 2, right?
But
was there a consensus? Was there a
You
vote?
preferred
No,
to
it's 2
take
and 2.
2 and 2.
2 and 2 to not do anything?
2 to change, 2 to keep it.
So there's no conclusion, so therefore there's no change.
conclusion, so it's up to
There's
the
no
staff.
conclusion.
Okay.
Was it? Trick or treaters, you know, with the city of Hammond?
Halloween.
And we won't see that until the week before,
Right, I mean,
or what the city does.
You know, unless something unusual happens, it'll be the 31st.
Okay.
You know, I know there's people that are making adjustments and celebrating Halloween on a different night, but that's, I believe the mayor has always indicated that Halloween celebration is on Halloween.
There's some cities that do it the Friday
I
before.
understood, but we're only concerned about what happens here.
Yeah.
Oh, so did you?
Oh.
No moving it?
Nothing.
All right. Any public comments? We shall adjourn the meeting at 7:43.
Thank you, madam.
Does anybody get Indiana Preservation? You get Indiana Preservation?
Hmm?
Okay.
Mr. Novak, do you get Indiana Preservation?
What about it?
Indiana Preservation?
well.
I thought that was really neat in Indianapolis, where they restored a Coca-Cola plant.